It was a Thursday night in March 1985. Johnny Carson had just finished taping The Tonight Show. Another episode, another monologue, another 15 million people watching him smile and tell jokes and make it all look effortless. But Johnny was tired, bone tired, the kind of tired that comes from 23 years of being on every single night, of being America's comfort, of being the face everyone saw before they went to sleep. He said goodnight to Ed McMahon, nodded to Doc Severinsen, waved to the crew, and instead of taking his usual car service home, Johnny did something he rarely did anymore. He decided to walk, not far, just a few blocks through Burbank, just enough to clear his head, to remember what it felt like to be a person instead of a personality, to be Johnny instead of Johnny Carson. He pulled on a plain jacket, no designer labels, nothing fancy, just a jacket. He left his dressing room, walked out the back exit of NBC Studios, and stepped into the cool California night. The streets were quiet. Most people were home watching TV, maybe watching his show. The thought made him smile. Here he was walking through empty streets while America was inside watching him on their screens. He walked past closed shops, past parked cars, past the occasional person hurrying home. Nobody recognized him, or if they did, they were too polite or too surprised to say anything. And Johnny liked it that way. He'd learned over the decades how to be invisible when he needed to be, how to move through the world without drawing attention, how to just be. After 3 blocks, Johnny stopped at a small 24-hour diner, Molly's, one of those places that had been there forever. Red vinyl booths, checkered floor, the smell of coffee and bacon grease hanging in the air. Johnny pushed open the door. A bell chimed. Inside, the place was nearly empty. An older waitress behind the counter, a trucker in the corner booth, and at the counter, hunched over a cup of coffee, sat a man. He was maybe 40, maybe 50, hard to tell. He wore a rumpled suit that had seen better days. His tie was loosened. His hair was messy. He stared into his coffee cup like he was looking for answers at the bottom. Johnny sat down at the counter, 2 seats away from the man. The waitress came over. She was maybe 60. Kind eyes, the name tag said, Molly. "What can I get you, hon?" she asked. "Just coffee, black, and maybe a slice of pie if you've got it." "Apple okay?" "Perfect." Molly poured the coffee, cut a generous slice of pie, slid it over. Johnny thanked her. She went back to wiping down the counter, humming softly to herself. Johnny ate his pie slowly, savored it. It was good pie, homemade, the kind his mother used to make back in Nebraska. Next to him, the man in the rumpled suit hadn't moved, just kept staring at that coffee cup. Johnny glanced over. He'd spent 23 years reading people, reading audiences, reading guests, knowing when someone was performing and when someone was hurting. This man was hurting. "Long day?" Johnny asked quietly. The man looked up, surprised someone was talking to him. He studied Johnny's face for a moment. If he recognized him, he didn't show it. "You could say that," the man said. His voice was rough, tired, like he'd been talking all day and had nothing left. Johnny nodded, took a sip of his coffee. Didn't push, just sat there. Sometimes that's all people need. Someone to sit there. After a minute, the man spoke again. "Lost my job today." Johnny looked over. "I'm sorry. 22 years. 22 years at the same company. Came in this morning. They called me into the office. Said they were downsizing. Let me go. Just like that. 22 years. Gone." The man's voice cracked on the last word. He looked down at his coffee again, embarrassed. "What did you do?" Johnny asked. "Accountant. Wilson Manufacturing. I was the head accountant. Thought I'd retire from there. Thought I'd work there until I was too old to add numbers. Guess I was wrong." Johnny was quiet for a moment. He thought about all the people he'd met over the years, all the success stories, all the celebrities, all the people who'd made it big. But he also thought about all the people who hadn't, all the regular folks just trying to get by, working every day, doing their jobs, taking care of their families. People like this man. "You got family?" Johnny asked. The man nodded. "Wife, 2 kids, daughters in college, Son's in high school. Both smart kids. Really smart. My daughter wants to be a doctor. My son wants to be an engineer. He smiled for the first time, a small, tired smile. They're good kids, better than I was at their age. They know yet? About the job? The man shook his head. Not yet. I've been sitting here for 3 hours trying to figure out how to tell them. How to go home and look my wife in the eye and tell her we might lose the house. How to tell my daughter she might have to drop out of school because we can't afford tuition anymore. His hands were shaking. He wrapped them around his coffee cup, trying to steady them. I don't know what to do. I'm 53 years old. Nobody's hiring 53-year-old accountants when they can get some kid fresh out of college for half the salary. I've been doing this my whole life. It's all I know. And now I don't know what happens next. Johnny finished his pie, pushed the plate away, turned on his stool to face the man. What's your name? Robert. Robert Sullivan. Robert, I'm going to tell you something, and I need you to listen. Can you do that? Robert nodded. 23 years ago, I took over The Tonight Show. You know the show? Robert looked at him closer. Really looked. And suddenly recognition flooded his face. Oh my God, you're Johnny Carson. I've been sitting here talking to Johnny Carson. Johnny smiled. Yeah, you have. But right now I'm just a guy in a diner, and you're just a guy having the worst day of his life. So let me finish, okay? Robert nodded, stunned. When I took over The Tonight Show, I was terrified. Absolutely terrified. Jack Paar had quit. The show was struggling. NBC was nervous. Everyone said I'd fail, that I wasn't funny enough, wasn't quick enough, wasn't Jack Paar. Johnny paused, took a sip of his coffee. And those first few months, they were brutal. I bombed. I mean, really bombed. Jokes fell flat. Interviews were awkward. The ratings were terrible. I went home every night thinking, this is it. They're going to fire me. I'm done. But you didn't get fired, Robert said quietly. No, I didn't. But not because I was suddenly brilliant. I got lucky. The network gave me time. The crew believed in me. And I learned. Every night I learned. Every mistake taught me something. Johnny looked at Robert. You've been an accountant for 22 years. That means you're good at it. That means you know things kids out of college don't know. You know how businesses work. You know how to manage money. You know how to solve problems. But nobody's going to hire me. Maybe the manufacturing companies won't, but there are thousands of small businesses out there. Family businesses, mom and pop shops, people who need help with their books but can't afford a big firm, people who need someone experienced, someone they can trust. Robert was listening now, really listening. You could start your own practice, work for yourself, be your own boss. Yeah, it'll be scary. Yeah, it'll be hard at first, but you've got something those kids don't have. You've got experience, you've got wisdom, you've got 22 years of knowing what works and what doesn't. Johnny reached into his jacket pocket, pulled out his wallet, took out a business card, his personal card, not the NBC one, his private number. He handed it to Robert. You call that number tomorrow. Ask for my assistant. Tell her I sent you. I know people, business owners, people who need help. Let me make some calls. Robert stared at the card. His hands were shaking again, but for a different reason now. Mr. Carson, I don't. Yes, you can, and you will, because your daughter's going to be a doctor, and your son's going to be an engineer, and you're going to figure this out. Not because it's easy, but because you have to. Because that's what we do. We figure it out. Johnny stood up, put some money on the counter, enough to cover his pie and Robert's coffee and a generous tip for Molly. Go home, Robert. Tell your wife what happened. Tell your kids. Let them see you scared. Let them see you human. And then tomorrow, you call that number, and we start figuring this out. Together. Robert stood up too. He looked at Johnny, really looked at him. And then he did something Johnny didn't expect. He hugged him. Not a celebrity hug, not a fan meeting his idol, just a man hugging another man who'd given him hope when he had none left. Thank you, Robert whispered. Thank you. Johnny hugged him back. You're going to be okay, Robert, I promise. They pulled apart. Robert wiped his eyes, smiled. A real smile this time. My wife watches your show every night. She's never going to believe this. Johnny smiled. Tell her Johnny says hello, and tell her you're going to be fine. Robert nodded, picked up his jacket, straightened his tie, walked toward the door with his head a little higher than when he'd walked in. He stopped at the door, turned back. Mr. Carson? Yeah? Why did you help me? You don't even know me. Johnny thought about that, thought about all the people who'd helped him over the years, all the second chances he'd been given, all the times someone had seen him struggling and reached out. Because I've been where you are, Robert. Maybe not exactly, but close enough. And when I was there, people helped me. So now I help when I can. That's how it works. Robert nodded. Thank you. Really, thank you. And then he was gone. The bell chimed as the door closed. Johnny sat back down, finished his coffee. Molly came over with the pot. More coffee, Mr. Carson? So she'd known all along. No thanks, Molly. I should get home. Molly smiled. That was a good thing you did. That man was hurting bad when he came in here. I've been trying to cheer him up for 3 hours. You did it in 10 minutes. I just talked to him. You did more than talk. You gave him hope. That's worth more than money. Johnny paid his bill. Left Molly a $100 tip. She tried to refuse it. He insisted. For the pie, he said. Best I've had in years. He walked home. The streets were even quieter now. The city was asleep. But Johnny felt more awake than he had in months. The next morning, Robert Sullivan called Johnny's office. Johnny's assistant, who'd been briefed, was expecting him. Within 2 days, Johnny had made 3 calls. Within a week, Robert had 3 clients, small businesses that needed accounting help. Within a month, Robert had 8 clients. Within 6 months, he had 15. Within a year, Robert Sullivan had his own accounting firm, Sullivan and Associates. He worked from home at first, then rented a small office, then hired his first employee. His daughter graduated from medical school. His son got his engineering degree. They never lost their house. And every year on the anniversary of that March night, Robert Sullivan sent Johnny Carson a card. Just a simple thank you card. Johnny kept every single one. Years later, after Johnny retired from The Tonight Show, after he'd left the spotlight and moved to Malibu, a reporter asked him about his legacy. What do you want to be remembered for, Mr. Carson? Johnny thought about all the shows, all the guests, all the jokes, all the ratings, all the Emmy Awards. Then he thought about Robert Sullivan and a dozen other people just like him. People he'd met over the years, people he'd helped when he could, quietly, without cameras, without publicity. I want to be remembered as someone who made people laugh, Johnny said. But more than that, I want to be remembered as someone who showed up, who paid attention, who helped when he could. The reporter wrote it down, put it in the article. But what the reporter didn't know was that Johnny was thinking about a Thursday night in March 1985, about a man named Robert Sullivan sitting in a diner at midnight with his whole world falling apart, about the decision Johnny made to stop walking, to sit down, to listen, to help. That's the thing about Johnny Carson that most people never knew. He wasn't just the king of late night. He wasn't just the guy who made America laugh. He was a person who understood that sometimes the most important thing you can do is stop. Listen. Show someone they matter. On camera, Johnny was untouchable. Perfect. Always in control. Always funny. Always smooth. But off camera, Johnny was human. And he never forgot what it was like to struggle, to be scared, to need help. So when he saw someone hurting, he stopped. He listened. And he helped. Because that's what humans do for each other. That's what we're supposed to do. Robert Sullivan is 88 now, retired, living in Arizona with his wife. His daughter is a cardiologist. His son designs bridges. And in Robert's study, hanging on the wall next to his diplomas and family photos, is a framed business card. Johnny Carson's personal card, the one he was given on the worst night of his life, the night that changed everything. And every time Robert looks at that card, he remembers. He remembers that kindness exists, that people care, that even when you're invisible, even when the world seems to have forgotten you, someone might stop. Someone might see you. Someone might help. Johnny Carson died in 2005. The world mourned. Presidents gave speeches. Celebrities shared memories. Millions of words were written about his legacy. But Robert Sullivan didn't need speeches or articles. He knew Johnny's legacy. It was sitting in his study, in a small office in Arizona. It was in his daughter saving lives, his son building bridges. It was in the moment when one man stopped to help another, not because cameras were watching, not because it would make headlines, but because it was the right thing to do. That was Johnny Carson. Not the king, not the legend, not the icon. Just a man who stopped at a diner on a Thursday night and changed someone's life forever.